We're correct. We're live streaming to YouTube. So. Yeah, that's that blue one you were just looking at.
Hi, how are you? Hi, guys. We want to go like you. That was under,
Yeah. I put the wrong time.
6 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I should have put that.
Their comment there, I think.
So do you want to stay on mute then, since I'm talking to, how do we work this?
No, we don't want to say what they have people in the music.
Everybody else.
Well, we'll just have to go back and forth with whoever's talking. So Tim, somebody's,
I have mine on mute.
well, why am I hearing, oh, I'm hearing it out of your speaker. So Carrie's at home. She's home. Oh, she's purple can, got it. Right, gotcha. Oh, hi, Carrie.
Yes, I'm home, so I can.
Wait, this is very.
Not another voice in the room.
Are you going to be doing streaming? Is anybody on there?
Yes. Well, John hasn't put it live yet, so I will do YouTube though. I'll continue doing that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great, thanks. So
You're welcome.
we are. Okay.
Julie, you have to mute.
Everybody should mute except whoever's talking.
All right, is that better? Okay. So
Yes.
it's a bit later than we planned on starting. We had been in an exec session going over personnel and contract negotiations, but we are here and ready to start our kind of mixed meeting now. Let's see how this goes. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Julie, will you do roll call, please?
Barbara Dayton. Dave Conlon.
Here.
Tim Frazier.
Here.
Pat Braban.
Here.
Amy Rivera. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. If we could all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay, so thank you very much. I have to say it's been our recent meetings, we've had such a great turnout remotely, so let's see how it goes this evening. We certainly don't want to discourage participation by having a live meeting. There's all of us, and we have a member of the press here and 2 staff, and that's, you know, not a big audience, so we have been really appreciating being able to communicate with so many of our parents at these meetings, so we'll see how this goes. First item for review is our health and safety action plan. Deb, do you want to go over that?
to go to a doctor's PowerPoint presentation? Or do I present it?
Well, just like in poetry. You gotta go and Google Reads.
I can present it now, if you want to present it now.
Just like this is, yeah, everything else.
Right? Okay. So what you have before you is the spring school emergency response plan that you approved because of the project. Unfortunately, on September 7th, our governor made some changes to the school safety plan. We got notification of this September 30th, because it was kind of buried in an executive order. So our attorneys have decided what we need to add, and I've done that here on the slide. And this goes into the big safety plan that has already been distributed, which we're not going to recopy. But it also goes on the version that goes on our website that has certain information taken out that the public does not see. So we made legislative changes for essential work. So if by any chance we are shut down again, they want the districts to declare who is an essential worker. So we decided that the superintendent how's that, Dave?
I can't hear Deb.
Wow.
Thanks, Dave. Now you have to lower your volume. Right, okay. All right, are you presenting to everyone? Yes, okay,
So I guess you have to re-say all that.
okay. All right, let's go back. So before you tonight, you have the spring school emergency response plan, the one that goes on the website, but we will make changes to both the full plan and the one that goes on the website. This is based on the governor's legislative changes made on September 7th that were just shared with us by our attorneys. And basically what they said was that we needed to do certain things for our essential workers. We need, in case we are closed again for a length of time, who our essential workers would be. I'll go back to my presentation, John. Okay, here we go. So for us, it's the superintendent and the clerical support, director of HR and special ed, principal and the assistant, the district clerk for operations for the board, business office, payroll, pay bills, custodians, cleaning, delivering meals for the bus drivers, and technology personnel. So these changes were made on page 21 of the public copy. Then the plan requires us to indicate alternative days and times to cover phones and complete tasks so there's not overcrowding in the workplace. That the staff that are required to work from home are provided with essential devices, Chromebooks, cell phones if needed. Currently, 2 district clerical staff have cell phones and bus drivers have cell phones. The only ones that do not have Chromebooks or some sort of technology devices are our custodians, recess monitors, security guards, and bus drivers, because they do not need to have access to those. The district will work with the town of East Hampton and local hotels and motels to identify sites for emergency housing. This is required. So let's say an employee who's an essential worker, let's just take our IT person, who maybe they don't have a second bathroom in their house, they've been in and out of the building, and could possibly bring the virus home to them. But yet we consider them essential. They have to come to work. We may have to house them for a period of time if they cannot do that safely at home to keep their families safe. And this is the same language that more or less every school district is putting into their plan. Then the plan goes on to say the procurement of protective equipment. That was in our plan, but not spelled out to who would procure those items. So it's our chief custodian, our director of HR. They will order the supplies, they will inventory the supplies. Our custodians will ensure all classrooms have mask sanitizers and gloves. Communication. If any student, faculty, or staff member reports that they are positive for COVID, a phone call, email will be sent only to individuals that are immediately affected or directed by the Suffolk County Department of Health and the school nurse and the director of HR. This could mean a class or it could mean the entire building. So the key point here was the communication had to be spelled out. The other one was protocols for documenting precise hours and work locations, including off-site visits for essential employees and contractors. So we are keeping track of this documentation before this even came out, so that, along with Linda's help back there, we know exactly who is in what rooms during a given day. So even if we assign somebody lunch and recess duty, if for some reason there was a change midday, maybe that person went home for an appointment in the afternoon, we would know the change that was made for that day. The district will complete the Department of Health charts once a COVID case is suspected, and I'm going to be going into that in more detail. These changes to the plan are on page 25. So what we're asking for is a 30-day public hearing, so that 30 days for the public to review the documentation and to email the district clerk any concerns that they have with the additions that we made to the document. Otherwise, nothing else was changed.
So this is getting put up for revision?
Yes.
Or for approval?
Okay, for public comment.
Not the presentation where you're describing what's changed, but the whole.
Yes, the whole thing gets put up on the website for 30 days, and then on November 16th, we will have a resolution to adopt. Okay, any questions on that? And it also gets loaded to the state ed website as soon as we do those, that resolution.
Okay, thank you, Deb. We want to move on to the other item on the agenda.
So remote learning, I don't have my agenda up, or is that COVID?
The next item is the assessment of remote learning to date, parent-teacher feedback, ways to improve.
Okay, I'm gonna turn that over to Christine Cleary, acting principal.
Not so much that, two people that were.
I should mute,
Hold off your presentation.
yeah,
Well, I need to present it.
yeah.
But in Google Meet, make sure your microphone is on.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So I just have a quick presentation on an assessment and review of our current remote learning program. I will present for you. Okay. Let's think, there we go. Okay. So, as you know, we have a hybrid model of learning currently that includes 2 days in-person learning in the classroom and 3 days remote learning. We are constantly receiving feedback from parents, teachers, and students about the effectiveness of the program that's in place for our remote learning. And we are tweaking as we go along. So just to give you a little overview of some best practices for the remote learning portion of the hybrid model, it should have clear expectations, learning objectives that are standards-based, instructor presence, interactive, real-world applications, teaching for online students, and engagement and prompt feedback. Those are basically the ingredients for a successful remote learning program. So where are we now? Well, currently we have, with the hybrid model, and on the 3 days remote learning, we have about 609 students in grades K through 8 that are learning remotely 3 days a week. We have 16 of those students who recently went on to a 5-day remote learning program for various reasons. We have one teacher dedicated to 6 of those students and who are fully online and remote. And the other 10, they see their regular teachers for their instruction. Some of the learning expectations that we put forth in crafting this program were that the assignments should be clear and organized, that the assignments should be standards-based and have a learning objective, interactive, engaging. Our periods have now gone to 40 minutes as opposed to the 52 that they used to be in the regular school year. So we used the 2020 guideline, which is approximately 20 minutes of instruction, interactive instruction, and 20 minutes learning activity and/or assessment. Some of the remote strategies that we've seen so far this year, and again, we're K through 8, so different strategies fit different grade levels and content areas. We are all using, through K through 8, the Google Classroom platform. We have provided training to our teachers, primarily our younger grade teachers, our K through 2 teachers, on Google Classroom so that they could collaborate with their colleagues. And we are continuing that training every Wednesday until they feel that they are secure in their Google Classroom. So Bitmoji Classroom is used a lot in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. It's sort of a fun, animated classroom where the kids have avatars and the teachers have avatars, and it makes it very engaging for the kids. Screencastify, which is a recording program that a lot of our teachers are starting to get training on and use in their classrooms. It also helps the kids speak up and interact with each other. And make sure that they are, learning together in a collaborative environment. We've seen flipped classroom a lot, especially at our 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. Flipped classroom is when the kids do the assignment prior to meeting with the teacher so that they're prepared to have a discussion and answer some questions. And that's something that a lot of our teachers are starting to feel more comfortable with and getting a lot of benefits from. A lot of game-based learning, especially for assessment, like Kahoot and Quizlet. Project-based learning. We are trying to think outside of the box and move away from traditional assessments and more towards project-based learning and more critical thinking assessments, so that, again, that's part of the way we're differentiating our instruction and assessment. And certainly technology lends itself to project-based learning. So some of the real benefits we have seen is major collaboration and innovation, K through 8. We have some of our teachers have volunteered to train other teachers on the Google Classroom platform, also on Screencastify, and a lot of innovation. Instruction drives the technology does not drive the instruction. So if I am a kindergarten teacher, I might be using Bitmoji to make my lessons more engaging in Class Dojo. And if I am a 6th, 7th, or 8th grade teacher and I happen to be teaching civics or social studies, I may be showing news clips, a real world application of the election coming up and all kinds of current events. And I might have YouTube videos embedded and other types of videos to enhance the instruction. So it can look different at different grade levels. So moving forward, certainly our program is not perfect. We have gotten some feedback from plenty of parents and also from the staff themselves and the students as well. And we're going to continually use that feedback to improve our remote learning program. One of the things we have in the works is a Google survey that we will send out to parents, students, and staff. I'm hoping to have it out by the end of the week so we can analyze that data and then tweak the program as we need to. We just got in 175 brand-new Chromebooks that we were waiting with bated breath. They were on back order, and they just came in on Friday. And Mr. Gibbons and Mr. Charlton and Mr. Rivas, before he left, were working very, very hard to get these distributed to our K-2 students, starting with our second graders, so that they can go from paper packets to the remote assignments using their Chromebooks. We have professional development in the works for our teachers. Again, we will continue with Google Classroom and all the details that go with that. And also, we have in the works a distance learning strategies training. And I have reached out to BOCES and a couple of other educators who are experts in the field, and so we're hoping that we can provide that for our teachers as well. So as we go forward, that innovation can continue. Differentiated instruction. One of the main focuses of our tweaking, if you will, is not so much the remediation. I think we've done a really nice job of remediating for students who might be struggling or to fill in some of the instructional gaps from March till now. But we are really looking at accelerating for our high achieving students as well. And that is a focus of ours going forward. And also Google Classroom training for parents. So we would like to do it in English and Spanish so that parents can be true partners in their child's education. And we would like to have that virtual or maybe even in person with social distancing. And that is also in the works. So that is where we are, and that is where we hope to go. Does anybody have any questions? Sure.
So all these things, in a normal school year, normal school that we used to know about back before the pandemic, are things that would be taking place in spring school.
Right.
What you just shared tonight. So my concern is that we're not there, but school's really different. The way teachers prepare for the lessons, the way they present.
Sorry, Tim.
It's really different than it was.
Christine, can you can't hear Tim?
They couldn't hear you. We might have to start over.
Yeah, he's muted.
Yes, thanks, Tim. Thanks, Christine. No, yeah, I could hear you. There was just echoing from Christine's mic being on. Sorry, Tim.
Okay. So again, as I recap this, I think it's great. All the things you share with us are things that are best practices and that we have been hearing about as a board member for many years about Spring's commitment to doing these things and bringing more of these things into the classroom. But now the classroom is really different than it used to be. So, and you've only been into this a couple of weeks. So what I'd like to ask is, what are the things that you need to make this work better? And again, I have the unique advantage of having a wife who's a teacher and knowing how much energy and time it's taking her in addition this year compared to years in the past. And so what are we doing to really support our teachers and our students, given the fact that we're still trying to fulfill an agenda like you just shared with us that's pretty intense. And along with the fact that we're doing remediation, but we're also trying to bring rigor into this new approach. So what do you need? What don't you have? What would you like more of?
time and money.
Okay, well, I knew you were gonna say that, and that leads to the next part is, how are we giving teachers extra time to do this intense kind of work and still maintain the rigor and remediation that needs to take place? And then what kind of money are you talking about? What kind of resources would help if we were able to give you more resources?
Well, first of all, thank you for your question and the offer. I think that's been the delicate balance. We were just beginning week 4, and the first couple of weeks were definitely getting wet. There were teachers that came into this with any skill, and there were teachers that came into this really needing a lot of training and feeling like they wanted to do their best for the students that we can do. One of the things Ms. Winter and I were talking about today is maybe using the next superintendent's conference day on November 3rd, dedicating that day to specific training that the teachers need and the time that they need planning. So if somebody feels that they're really tech savvy and they're already at the innovation stage, they could use the time to plan and create. And for those that need training, it would be really differentiating specific to those teachers. So if I know that I need to use Google Classroom and I'm not pushing that, I'm going to spend my day doing that and really like training them. If I need to know more about what really best practices are for remote learning, then I'm going to be dedicating my time to that. We're trying to come up with creative uses of time. We're trying to work smarter. Teachers are doing double, sometimes triple at this point, and we feel their pain. And I mean, I can't compliment our staff enough for what they do to not only raise graces or June, but coming back and doing this is really not a lot of time to plan over the summer and trying to build the plane, fly the plane, and build those. I said it's like roller skating on a race track, you know, it just always completely different footing. So I would say time, some flexibility there, and definitely resources to bring in some experts, people who have done this, people who know how to roll this out in higher ed, as a technical aid for many years on remote learning, and K-12 needs time to catch up. And so I would look for your expertise if you know some people we reach out to. I want to cut to the chase, go right to the experts who can give them quick application and proper application so they start using strategies right away.
The only thing I would suggest is maybe the Peconic Teacher Center, the Peconic PTC, and reaching out to them. I know they're really interested in sharing some of the things that their teachers have put together. They have a lot of national board certified teachers working on this just exact thing that you were talking about.
Okay.
The other thing is, I don't know how you're using Wednesdays. I know Wednesdays are a lot of remote learning with all students together, but maybe you could cut some time out of that Wednesday to do some more integration of teachers working together, whether it's a grade level or maybe some of the things you talked about.
Some vertical alignment.
Yeah, instead of waiting to November the 3rd, maybe start doing some of those things. I don't know, because that's the only day really I can see that you would have the kind of time to do the things you're talking about.
To me, it sounds like you're waiting until November 3rd. It's like, that's a month away.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like any help somebody needs should be happening much sooner than that. How can we figure out a way to fit that in?
Right, and like I said, the Google Classroom training is happening. We started it last Wednesday, and we've been dedicating several hours of that day. And so we're sort of rolling out training based on the need and based on who's asking us for what they need. So that is why we have to certainly look at all the grade levels and make sure that everybody has a voice and that everybody. Some people might not even know what they need, so having sort of those resources ready to go. So I will reach out to the Peconic Teacher Center and see what I can find, and then to course offerings and also the time to do vertical alignment as well. One of the things we focused on in Superintendent's Conference Day was prioritizing learning standards so that we're not trying to reteach things from last year. We're starting off this year running with some really good scaffolding and prioritizing the things that they must know in this current grade level. So all of that can be done on Wednesdays when they're not recording themselves or planning their grade level. So yes, thank you. All good suggestions, and we'll get that in the works right away.
Yeah, there are two new directors at Peconic, Kelly Anderson and, no, it's a science teacher, former science teacher, both national board certified teachers. But they've been doing a lot of work with Google Classroom and some other things, and they may have some great suggestions for us as we move through this.
Well, I will certainly reach out to them. So thank you for that.
I have a question, is that, are you getting feedback yet from teachers as to what's working and what's not working in terms of the scheduling, in terms of whether it's dealing with kids or just anything that they feel that,
Yes.
that's a problem that we have to rethink from what the original plan was going in?
Yes, we have to look at participation on remote learning days, making sure that kids are signing in on time and that everybody understands that this is not March through June of last year. This is learning, this is school now, and there's different expectations. I think we also, one of the things that came up was teachers needing certainly more time, but I think also there's different grade levels with different issues. Really mainly management when they're teaching large groups of remote learners. So if they have students in front of them, but they also have students that they're working with remotely, sometimes, the actual behavior management when the kids are not in front of you is a little tricky. So that's something that we could, train into, I think.
I mean, as we said at one point, our code of conduct still applies to everybody.
Yes, our code of, yes.
Have we sent that out to parents this year to review it, and have we had people actually sign acknowledgement of that before? And maybe the seriousness of something like that would have to remind people, hey, this is actually school,
Right.
and you still have to be following certain, have certain behaviors when you're dealing with your classmates and the teacher.
Well, one of the forms that the parents do sign, the contract, is the agreement, the code of conduct agreement, as well as the technology use agreement when they sign up for Parent Portal. Is it being read closely? I don't know. So that's something to definitely review with parents. And I think also when we bring parents in for some training, we can also go over all of that. I think once parents can walk through it with confidence and they can help their kids, no matter how old the kids are, then we can use those opportunities to remind them of the expectations. I know the teachers are constantly reminding the kids of the expectations because they are holding the children accountable. And we wanted to leave room for that social emotional, kind of a soft landing coming in this year, but now we're getting to the point where progress reports are coming out next week. So, and then we have report cards in a couple of weeks. So we definitely are, it was a soft landing at first, and I think as we're getting more into it, that's what we need to do is communicate some of those expectations and really remind people of why we're here and why we've gone all this trouble to set this up so that everybody can learn.
So in terms of communicating with parents, I know when school started, there was a lot of talk and, you saw people posting on Facebook, when does my kid, how do they sign up for remote? I don't seem to be having any information about that. Has that gotten smoothed out? So every kid should know when they're signing in on remote and how, because you said, you're having issues with remote attendance.
I don't
Is
think.
it really clear for each kid, each class, when they're supposed to be signing?
Yeah, I think it's clear and organized. I mean, I was actually going to show you a couple of samples, but I didn't get approval from certain teachers and I didn't want to put them on the spot. So, but I can show that to you another time. But yeah, I think it's clear and organized. But what I think is happening, it's the motivational piece. I think that, some of our students don't have the support at home, and maybe that we have to teach into that a little bit and support the families a little bit more. So that's with outreach and things like that. I think that the rules are clear. I think the assignments are clear and the technology is clear. Our teachers are experts at that. I think that, it's almost this, it was, you know, we had the same issues when the kids were here 5 days a week. It's just maybe not as much, not as much. Because there's something about having that screen in front of you that you think maybe it's not quite real. But it's something to definitely try to address.
I had another question about you mentioned that in terms now the periods are 40 minutes, so you have 20 minutes of instruction, 20 minutes of learning activity and assessment. Is that the usual ratio, like when periods were 52 minutes? Was it like 25 or 26 minutes of one and 26 of the other?
No, we always use the workshop model for all of our instruction, whether it was math, literacy, social studies, doesn't matter. So you would do your mini lesson introduction, then you would do your connected activity, and then you would do your assessment piece. So it was kind of broken into thirds a little more. With the 40 minutes, there's teachers that teach two grade levels. At our junior high. This is it really more applies to junior high because there's more wiggle room in the schedule to be creative with K through 5. But 6 through 8, some of them only have that 20 minutes because they have to break it up between grade 6 and grade 8. And so that was the most reasonable time frame that we could come up with to accommodate both the staff time limitations and the kids getting instruction. But remember that they're also, when they are released for the other 20 minutes, they're not released to do nothing. They're supposed to be released with an activity, whether it's collaborative with the other students, whether it's independent work. So it's something that's aligned to whatever the mini lesson was.
So is that format seeming to be effective so far for the?
I would say that it needs work, but it's effective in some cases. It's ineffective in other cases. And again, it's not a one size fits all. So we're looking at that, and that's why getting the survey results back will be really important.
Okay, because you did go ahead and put a survey out to the teachers asking, you're talking to the survey to the teachers asking about feedback on things?
It's going to be for the parents, the teachers, and the students. All three.
When do you?
I'm hoping to get it out by Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once we have that feedback, we can really kind of craft a response and see what we need to tweak.
Okay.
Can we see that survey before it goes out to the board?
Okay.
Christine?
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can we see that survey, what it looked like before it goes out?
Right, so the next item we have on there is COVID procedures when a positive case is confirmed, which we have unfortunately just had firsthand experience with. So Deb, you want to go over that?
Unmuted. You all hear me? Unmuted. Okay. So yes, unfortunately, it was only a matter of time before we had a positive case. Always seems to hit us on a Friday. We got a call about, I would say 11 o'clock. The report actually came from the parent. A doctor's office will not notify you. And we went into what we call our COVID administrative role. And the first thing that we needed to do was to contact, believe it or not, the Department of Health. So since the report did not come from them, that's the first phone call that we make. I just wanted to share a toolkit that the Department of Health puts out. I gave you all a copy of it, but it is on the website. And this is really very important for parents to have, because it tells you if you're unsure. And Deb Durati, our school nurse, has been working so hard. I don't think in the 4 years that I've been here, I've ever worked so closely with the school nurse before, but she is really done an incredible job. Her and Tara are constantly on the phone as parents call and inquire what they should do. When in doubt, we tell our parents to keep their child home. Even a staff member has been told, when in doubt, stay home if you don't feel good. That's the best thing that you can do. So this packet really explains all of the different scenarios. I'm not going to go into all of them, but the one that is probably relates most to us on Friday is almost the last slide here. So COVID-19 school and local health department coordination for contact tracing. So we notified the Department of Health, as I said, they did not notify us. That puts us in like, almost like a system, and then we get a call. We are still not saying that we have a confirmed case until the Department of Health actually confirms it. And how they confirm it is by getting the information from the doctor's office or the testing site. So that's really important, that we may suspect, but if we don't have the knowledge from actually the Department of Health, it's not real at that point in time. I stop presenting? Tell me I did.
So, sorry, Deb, so even though a parent has come to you and said, my child has tested positive for COVID, you still check it with the Department of Health, and they tell you that, yes, in fact, this is correct, is that?
Yes. The doctor's office will not give us the information. They will not give us the information. Did you lose the presentation? Yep. No, I lost it completely. I guess that's going to happen each time I go to one of my connections. Okay. This next chart, no, it's hard to read, but I'm going to read it from the PowerPoint presentation. Is also put out by this department, the CDC. What to do if a child becomes sick at school, or what to do if a child tests positive. So as I said, the first phone call is to the Department of Health. And then the Department of Health directs us to fill out some paperwork. That paperwork was started a while back. And I'm going to share with you the actual reporting from the Department of Health. Suffolk County Department of Health on October 1st made this presentation to all the school districts. So I'm just going to follow this right here. So, as I said, we call the Department of Health, or you fill out a form. Department of Health will then be calling the school. And one of the things that it's asking the school is, so was the child tested? What kind of test? And, or was the child symptomatic? When did the symptoms start? They look back at 48 hours. So they gave some examples of that. Contact tracing starts 48 hours prior to symptoms, or 48 hours prior to the test. So you can be asymptomatic, but go for a test for maybe somebody in the family was sick or something like that. So in our case, it happened on a Friday. It was, the child actually got tested on a Thursday, putting them in the A cohort. The A cohort would have been in school on Monday, okay? But it was a holiday Monday, so the look back was really Tuesday. So for us, the tracing was very easy. It was actually one class, one day, and it didn't impact the entire school, and we didn't have to close 24 hours afterwards. If this had been a Thursday into Friday, we probably would have been on remote learning Friday, because they need about 24 to 48 hours, the Department of Health, to do their tracing. It took us probably all afternoon to do our tracing, and we had all the documentation that we needed for that tracing, just a matter of putting it all together. So one of the next steps for a school is to make sure that that child is not in school and somebody in the household is not in school. Deb Girardi again confirmed that none of the children in that household or that child was in school on Friday. The next thing is the close proximity, starting at the school level. So school districts are responsible for tracing, but it's the tracing at our level. So here's the other form that I wanted to share with you. So this form has to be filled out. There are 6 parts. The first part has to do with the school. The second part is the case about the actual child or staff member. The next is, how did that child or staff member come to school? Was it on the bus? Did they walk? Were they driven? Is it a carpool? We have some of our staff that carpool, so that would be information that we would put down on this form. Yes. This is, section 4 is in-class activities. Pay close attention to this. This is what helps the Department of Health and the school district do something called mitigation. So although we are in a cohort model, which really helps, our kids don't change classes. Our staff actually goes into the classrooms at the junior high level. So in this case, they're asking for the maximum size of the classroom. Most of our classrooms are in the average of 770. For SED, 770 is about 27 students in a classroom. Junior high is allowed about 30 students in a classroom to an average size room of 770. So younger kids, they say 27. So that's your, yes, that's your capacity. This Board of Education has been very supportive. We really have no class over 15 students. So we're right at the 50% capacity rate, which is what the Department of Health has recommended. In some cases, we're much lower than that. So that's another mitigating factor. Then they ask about the height of the ceiling. Well, we collected that information prior to this. Then they ask about the seating arrangement in the classroom. Social distancing. I can answer the question, yes. In every single room, we have social distancing. There's not one room that that's not the case. Mask wearing enforced during the class. I can also answer that question as being yes. Ventilation, were the windows and doors open during the class? Now, most of our security guards are working outside because of the doors and windows being open. Inside, I couldn't answer that question with 100% certainty. So I said no in this case. Got to remember, there's different teachers in these rooms. So when in answering no to that, I might have made that a mitigating factor for the Department of Health, but I wanted to answer honestly. I did check the ventilation system and put in that blank, univents in all of our classrooms were on. So that helped. Classroom activities. This is, I had to explain that the children were in the class the entire day. The staff were not. So the staff moved in and out of that room, but nobody other than these 10 children were together all day long. That was an important mitigating factor. Then they went and they do not commingle. The Department of Health, you could hear them in the background jumping up and down saying, they don't commingle even for recess, you have enough staff? I said yes, they are with the STAIN lunch recess monitor for the whole 40 minutes. 20 minutes inside, 20 minutes outside. They even went out today because it got nice by 11 o'clock, so they were out today. Library, they do not go to library. Library goes to them. So that was taken off the mitigation. And then any additional information that you want to share with them. Based on this information, they were able to, the key moment in all of this is getting the information by like 11 o'clock, because at 2:30, the Department of Health has a meeting with all of the tracers, all of the Department of Health workers. And they talk about each case, and they determine who needs to quarantine. So by 5 o'clock Friday, I knew who had to quarantine. The bus driver did not have to quarantine, the matron did not have to quarantine, the 10 children did, only one staff member, and all the other staff members did not have to quarantine. Then I have to fill out another form. That's the tracing form. I had filled out that form right away, early in the day, not knowing that I only fill out that form after they tell me who they want to see. So they wanted to see only the 10 kids and the one teacher. So that saves them on their, what they have to do on their end. So let me see if I can get out of this and go into the next one. Nope, it knocks me right out every time. I'm sorry. because of, so that's that form, and you can see the commute, how they came in, the classroom information. That chart I also shared with you, you have it. We started this like October 1st. So this is handy. I also requested this information from Eleanor Whitmore, because if these children had been in childcare, I would have needed to provide the childcare information about the classroom as well. Okay, and how they got there and who was on that bus, because we do transport them to Eleanor Whitmore. The next thing that happens is that contact tracing. The contact tracing took place over the weekend. So all the individuals were called, they're asked a series of questions. Because remember, I don't know what the students or staff do after hours here. That's their job, is to do that contact tracing. They will send the parents a quarantine letter. So in our case, a quarantine letter went to all of our parents. They can use that quarantine letter for their employer so that they can get the benefit of what's called the COVID days. So they should not be docked. I saw these COVID letters from East Hampton Town when we first closed in March. Okay, I had to sign off that the school was closed so that person could get their COVID days. They will also send them an email at the end of the quarantine time. They're supposed to be in touch with them every day to check in and see, do they have any symptoms? Are they not feeling well today? So we make sure that we keep in touch with them as well. Deb Girardi is doing something else for me. That portal that you talk about, Tim, that I fill out every day, I get my information from Linda on ASOP as to who's in the building. I get my information from Deb on who got tested, what were the results of the testing. From what we know, we don't know everything. So it's the best guess. I was very upset with the report on Friday because I had filled it out early because I was actually leaving to go for my own school physical, by the way. I tried to go back in, which it allows you to go back in and make changes, and those changes weren't recorded. So I did email them today. This is the state that does that reporting that you can see online, and they said they would take care of it and make the correction. I have to say, the Suffolk County Department of Health, the entire weekend were reachable. The entire weekend. I never felt that I was alone in this process. We also got a compliment from somebody that we really respect, who emailed us today and said, what a wonderful administrative team. You guys are doing everything right. The Department of Health was talking about you. She was actually on the call that they have, and they were talking about spring school. If you can believe it, our tracing was literally 11 people. That was it because of how they're doing things. So as much as it really hurts me that we're not back 5 days a week and that our classes aren't full to capacity, I think we're doing the right thing for the health and safety of our kids and our staff. It's just so obvious that we're not putting, you know.
It could have been much worse if that classroom had clean. We're trying to track all that down. It could happen a lot easier.
You know, it's in the back of my mind, but based on the Department of Health just totally being in awe that we don't commingle and that we have this designated staff, the monitor on the bus says, how can you ensure that they all have their mask on? I said, I have a monitor on the bus. How many kids are on the bus? 18 out of 66. The bus is a bus that holds 66, and you have 18? Well, 18 in the morning, 22 in the afternoon. That information is not even on that form, but I put it there because I thought it was important for them to know that that bus didn't have 66 children on it. So I think we're really doing everything we possibly can. It is a bear. If you ask me the same question you asked Christine, what do we need? We need another nurse. This Deb Durati was like this lightning bolt. She was going from being at my side, filling out the paperwork, to running to put, a bloody nose, take care of a bloody nose, back to my office. It was just, you need a nurse that just does this, that doesn't have to worry about sick kids or running out to the playground when somebody falls. And we can't find them. We can't find them. I put calls into Fred Thiel, who spoke to Southampton Hospital. They were looking for us. But if you ask me, that's what we need most right now. Because this is just a lot. But I'm very proud of this team. We all pulled together. The parents got a letter right away on Friday. The staff were all notified. The students were all notified. Christine took care of the students, Kerry took care of the staff. Another letter went out Saturday. The board members all saw that letter. I think we've got a good plan down. It's gonna happen again, unfortunately. And we just,
Now you call it
we were all good on Friday. There was no panic. There was just, wanting to do the right thing. And I can't say enough about the Department of Health. They sounded, exhausted by Sunday. They really did. The person I was speaking to the entire time, by Sunday, I was worried about her. Because she just sounded so exhausted and tired. They don't have enough staff either. So whatever we can do on our end as a school district to help the Department of Health in giving them the current information, current phone numbers. Date of births have to go on there for our staff, believe it or not. So it's a lot of information, and if you can have it really handy, and we do now, we have binders. Linda put together a lot of binders for me so that I have that information both in school and at home. This can come to you, they told me, as late as 8 o'clock at night. So I could be home tonight and get a call at 8 o'clock at night that, you have a case. Questions? Well, I'm very proud of this team. I really am.
So how are things today? First day back in school, we know we're down a teacher, so is there a smooth transition there?
I'm so glad you asked that question. That teacher actually rocked today. She asked John to put a camera on her meeting board, and she was teaching from home into her classroom. So that worked out. And that teacher's home because of her child, not because of her. Where our other students that are home, because the cohort was quarantined, their teachers taught them, but they were in the empty classroom, and the kids were on the Google Meet. So that was reversed. We're getting better, right, John? Our technology, again, was working. Of course, at 4 o'clock when I went to fill out my Department of Health, yeah, the internet went out on me. I don't know what that was about, but I emailed them to tell them that, yeah, there was a glitch here, but it worked. The technology has been working, thank goodness. And all the Chromebooks will get out probably by Friday to the students.
I want to address the anxiety level, though, that we did have some absentees today.
We did. What did we have? It was mostly on the younger grades. Parents did call. As I said, Deb Durati fielded a lot of those calls. Christine took some calls. I'm concerned about sending my children to school this week. I'm just going to keep them home this week. I think, Christine and I will look at this Thursday because this is that cohort. Let's see what tomorrow's cohort brings. And if they have not come in on Thursday, I think we need to make calls to them and tell them the mitigating factors. And let them know that we're doing everything that we can on this end. One of the things I will say to parents, especially those that are listening, is when we see our children leave from here, we have a lot more walkers now. They're leaving in groups. I've been told by community members that when they're out socially after school hours, they're not masked. They're in small groups, they're gathered. They have to follow the same rules outside of school, and I don't know how to make that happen except to ask our parents and ask our students for their help. I mean, our students can be the heroes. The other thing that's important is parents know where the little ones were and what they were doing, but when you have an older child, that older child has to recall, where were you in the last 48 hours? Did you go to somebody's house? Did you have a sleepover? Did you play basketball unmasked? That's hard. They're not keeping everything on their calendar like we do. But that's going to be very important for our students to be able to remember where they were the last 48 hours so that they can help the Department of Health. And it's not tattling. It's keeping your friends safe, letting them know that, you know, you got sick and that friend may have an elderly grandparent that they're living with. You know, you didn't do anything wrong. You just need to tell the contract tracer who you think you might have been in touch with. And then based on those questions that are asked, they determine whether that person has to quarantine or not. But it's a lot for a student to recall and be interviewed. A little nerve-wracking. Did I miss anything there? Our staff, you know, pretty much was kept informed. We could have let them know a little earlier on Saturday. When in doubt, the Department of Health says, until you hear something, just try not to go anywhere. And that's hard because people have lives, and especially Saturday, who had a soccer game, who, you know. So we were sending calls and emails from the staff, and we were able to even say, okay, don't worry, you're okay. You know what I mean? Based on what we knew at that time. And that's the other thing, I think Dave brought that up. That's what we knew at that time on Saturday. Sunday could have been a different story if the tracer traced back a kid to a party that had 30 of our kids there. Based on what we knew Saturday, that was the best that we knew.
Oh, so Julie, you have a question from someone from the public?
One, yes. I have a question from Katie Farmer. She said, given the fact that we have had our first COVID case, the likelihood of possibly having more in the future, would you consider allowing teachers to choose to work remotely from home on Wednesdays in order to limit the amount of people in the building? That's the first part. And the second part is, has the BOE and administration thought that being proactive in switching to remote teaching from Thanksgiving to mid-January in order to limit exposure due to the amount of people who travel during the holidays? Sure. Given the fact that we have, can you hear now? Is that better? Given the fact that we have had our first COVID case and the likelihood of possibly having more in the future, would you consider allowing teachers to choose to work remotely from home on Wednesdays in order to limit the amount of people in the building? Has the BOE and administration thought about being proactive in switching to remote teaching from Thanksgiving to mid-January in order to limit exposure due to the amount of people who travel during the holidays?
I don't think we have not discussed that yet, but it's certainly something to think about. Yeah, I mean, to Wednesday, you have a very limited population here. There's no children here, so I don't know that that's. Right. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing training, certainly you'd have to be here if there's other things like that. So I'm not sure about that, but with the Thanksgiving one, I mean, I know a lot of colleges are doing that. You know, kids are being home for that time period. But, you know, they have less time to go back to school between Thanksgiving and Christmas. We have basically like a whole month there. It's certainly, you know, it's certainly something to think about.
Are you on mic? There you go.
I was a person who on the land. You know, so certain states you can't come, so you gotta call TV at home. You know, my sister, they close the school for 6. One better than go to I mean, they're talking about parents, specific how each state. The government's not going to go college is different. You cannot have them all over the country because of college. The college are done some more. You know, I think that our residents school, high school, that's the same. College now.
No, you're right, yeah, you're right.
The followed, you know, college, they're going to have a lot of kids that come home, over the effects of the state. We're going to do, you know, that's what we're trying to figure out.
I'm sure this is going to come up at the East End Superintendent's meeting, because I have heard some talk about it, but the problem is, you do this for the breaks that you're worried about, but there are other schools looking at this as, how do you sit in a classroom? We're all cold right now. We are not dressed for this. How do you sit in a classroom in January and February with the windows open? And the Department of Health has clearly indicated that that's really important, that cross ventilation, windows open, even if it's a crack, even with the heat on. You know, can we sustain this in the middle of winter? Is that the time that you really look to maybe go to the remote instruction for those really bad winter months if we know we've got 2 weeks of temperatures below 30?
But can we close because of weather, or do we have to get permission from the state in order to close the school?
We would not be closed, we would be on remote learning.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so as long as you get your 180 days in, you're fine, as long as they're remote learning days.
So you use snow days now for remote learning days.
So we have 2 snow days built into the calendar too. Lots of things to.
No, in the sun simply getting really cold. Really cold, the weather we had.
I think it's something we need to watch. You know in advance, they tell you the weather, that, you know, we're expecting the temperatures for the next week to be below 20. I think that's when we go to remote learning, because we can't keep these windows open at that temperature. Our kids really go outside, what, 30 is our cutoff, 32? 32 is our cutoff, so.
I'm from Buffalo, so I would send them out at like 19 and go like 32.
Exactly. I mean, kids can certainly wear jackets indoors if it's chilly, and hats, as long as their parents are sending them with all that.
Yes.
Making sure that they know that you might need to be dressed for outdoors and indoors. Right?
Yes.
Coming prepared is going to be really important.
What?
Coming prepared is really important.
But you know, in terms of closing over that periods, I think it's just, again, the question of flexibility. I don't know that that's something we could decide at this stage, but, you know, someone has that by next week, some school has to close, not because of illness, but because it's just too cold out. And everyone's going to have to make adjustments, unfortunately.
And remember, you're supposed to be able to go to remote learning on a dime. At 8 o'clock at night, the teachers could be told tomorrow is a remote learning day. A remote learning drill? They would like that. I think that will come sooner than later based on, as I said, we got lucky on Friday that it was a Friday and not, because that's part of our procedures.
But they did it.
The staff have been told, the students have been told, the Chromebooks go home every night. Every night. Anybody who's forgotten anything are gonna have to beg or borrow from somebody to do what they need to do that day.
Dave, do you have any questions at all? Don't forget you over. What about that?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, all of our volumes down. Sorry. What was that?
I said, can you hear me?
Go ahead, we have yours on, go ahead.
Okay, yes, we can, yeah. You have your microphone on, Tim? Okay, so just tell Dave to go ahead and talk now.
I did a question about with a positive COVID case with siblings, say in different grades, and how we're handling that if it was a positive case that had siblings either at spring school or that filters into the high school. What's our communication with that, with maybe another with one of the other districts, if that comes up?
With siblings, they stay home. So if we know of the siblings here or at the high school, they stay home. The county would contact the high school right away. Here, we told all the siblings to stay home. No. That's a really good question. Anna asked if the siblings cohorts would have to stay home. The county clearly identified it as contact to contact. So one of the questions that our teachers union asked was, we have a pod of teachers. One of those teachers in that pod taught in that class. That teacher had contact. None of you had contact with the COVID child. So no, that they're not even on the tracing list. You have to have had contact. And that's our job is to make that list first. And then based on the mitigating factors, the Department of Health removes those that they feel do not have to quarantine. And then they tell us who does have to quarantine. And they tell the individuals as well.
Do we know if the siblings tested positive or not?
They did not.
And if the siblings tested positive, would things have been different with the other grades?
Yes.
Even if they didn't test positive until today, let's say. Like, is someone tracking that? We're finding out who's testing positive even today in that household?
The Department of Health tracks that. As I said, we found out about our case from the parent, but we could have found out by the Department of Health. The parent was forthcoming and called us immediately. So the parent would call us. And then the process would start all over again.
Right.
Symptoms, not necessarily testing, because it's really hard to get a test and then rapid test.
Well, the rapid test, it's interesting. The rapid test is positive. If it's positive, then it's positive. If a rapid test is negative, they normally send it out for the longer test to be certain. So you would be quarantined until that test came back. Now remember, quarantined is the 14 days, and isolation is the 10 days from either your test or being symptomatic. In this case, there were no symptoms. So that child is out for 10 days, but we've already determined that the child will stay out because of the cohort, will stay out with the cohort. Get next extra weekend out of it and come back with the cohort. There's no sense in bringing one child back without the rest of the class.
Carrie, did anybody, have any, questions, online?
I heard you. Hold on, I just have to go to the other screen as well. There are no questions online.
Is anyone online?
There was 12.
12 people?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was up to 15, so.
Oh, okay. Julie, anything else? Yes, of course.
Get to speak up.
Yeah, come up.
No, that's okay.
I just want to say that, as I no longer have children here, but as a staff member, I really feel that you guys, everybody, has worked as a team, has done, I feel, their best, because nobody's been through this before. And I feel safe, I feel you've taken measures to keep us safe. I appreciate that you asked for feedback many times. And even on Friday after hearing that first case, I just felt confident that you would take those steps to keep us safe. You know, I came here today knowing that if you felt I should be here, it's because you did, you know, you worked very hard to do it. I appreciate all the hard work that I'm sure it's not easy, and it's being really by the minute. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Um, I forgot what it was.
All of the slides will be posted. I'm going to separate them out, John, the two presentations separately.
Yeah, they're posted already.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I think one of the things, I mean, having that parent get in touch with you and not waiting for the Department of Health to get in touch was really key. Can we encourage our parents that, you know, since don't wait for the Department of Health to do it, if you know, please get in touch with us right away.
Should now.
Every parent, child is active. Every parent. We're doing that faithfully every day.
I can't hear you.
Thanks, Dave. Usually by 10 o'clock,
You have to say again.
okay, usually by 10 o'clock, we have made phone calls to every single parent of a child who's absent. We want to know why. Is it a doctor's appointment? Is it because you got tested? Is it because you're going to the dentist? So we are collecting that information every single day. That's important information, so that we know as soon as possible. And the doctor's offices, I think, are telling our parents, if they have a school-age children, please call your school now and let them know. The doctor cannot tell us because of the HIPAA, but our parents can definitely tell us. And then we have to protect them, and their health and their privacy.
Deb, it's Terry. If we can have parents email Deb Girardi, that would save us some time rather than making phone calls. So if you have your child home, if you could please email Deb Girardi why, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, we said that at back to school night, but we could put out a message to our parents and reminding them.
You know, how's that working out? You get most of them in now?
The calls,
The daily form for the parents to fill
The
out.
checklist, the questionnaire.
yes, that's also being, reviewed by the nurses. Pretty much, we're looking at a system, like we signed up for it through BOCES, that will give us like information right away. It will highlight who hasn't done it by, 8:10 in the morning, 8:20 in the morning. So right now, it's all being done by, Kerry does the staff, and the nurses do the students. We're still taking temperature checks right here, going really well, on the buses, really well. They're not slow. Linda has one back there. You know what affects it is the outdoors. Because we're taking them when kids are in their cars, and we're taking them before they get in the bus. So,
We just got 3 new ones at Whitmore, and you just hold them up. And they're really accurate, and it's voice activated, so it tells you what temperature it is. And I've had it out there in the cold weather, rain, and they really do it. The only issue is kids have hair on the forehead.
Yeah.
But you actually take it off. So all the kids have to do is raise
Ooh,
it.
yes, please. Yeah, I think a parent was asking about that, you know.
Not that expensive. You think about what it does very quickly, and it just voices out temperature. So then it reads the temperature what it is, but it tells the kid right away that.
Yes.
So even now, it comes up on
Yeah, there, I think Mike priced them. They look like an iPad, right? Yeah.
Looks like an iPad.
They had those in the hotel.
I'll send you
Yeah.
a brochure.
They were
Thank
about
you.
3,000 each.
Yeah.
3,000.
No, 3,000. This one's not that expensive.
Well, the one at the high school is 3,000. And then you have to have someone still standing there though. Yeah. Because it doesn't record it.
Individually.
Yeah.
But this, you hold it up, but you can do it very quickly.
It's just really important for our staff and our students and our parents to know if you don't feel well, please stay home. They've been great. Our parents have been great. Our students have tolerated wearing masks. They've social distancing. They've learned how to washing their hands. They've learned how to do creative activities outside and still social distance and still laugh and find joy. You know, they're resilient. I think if Christine and I, you know, double up and make some of those phone calls to our parents to tell them what we have in place, validate their concerns, but at the same time, you know, children need to be in school when they can. When they can.
You know, one thing I really appreciate tonight, especially, is the press being here and taking down this information, and hopefully articles to our parents and community, letting them know all the things that we're doing to try to make it safe, and that we're open for suggestions and input. So that's a big part of this, not only televising this, but also having the press here. So thank you.
Julie, anything else coming to you at this point? Gary, you got anything in yet?
I don't think so. Hold on, I just have to switch screens. Nope, nothing.
For free.
I think we have to talk about this meeting format because, as you said, doors open, it's chilly. It's like, since we're doing this a combination, anybody looking at us is just looking at the mask and the talking. And is it more effective to be able to see people's faces and have just the totally virtual meeting, which we are allowed to do now through November? And we did honestly get, I think, better turnout then. I mean, you know, were people concerned about coming this evening? You know, it's hard to say, but, yeah. Do we do the, do we do a normal meeting like this? Right, well, we all wear socks. My winter jacket. You all set?
We can bring in with marshmallows.
So, all right. Without public comment, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Christine? Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Have a good night. Deb, you're still on, so you can hear Barbara.
Okay.
Unmute. Good night.